Hello, Toffees. Welcome back to another episode of The Blue Frontier. James here to just give a quick intro to this episode. After the Man City loss, Sean and Ryan were able to hop on X and recorded a short spaces with some listeners and some community input. Decided to publish that in lieu of an episode since I was occupied. Ryan was at the beach at the time, so apologies for the disjointed schedule lately, but we will be back to producing and releasing regular episodes here shortly to wrap up the season, and then we've got a whole slew of content ready to come to you guys this summer. So thanks for bearing with us through this scheduling difficulty period. Hope you enjoy the space. Let us know. Reach out. Follow us on socials. All that good stuff. Leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. Without further ado, into the space.
All right. I think we'll just get started. Go through the match real quick, but more than anything, I want to hear from the community on this one. Of course, we started the game. Going into it, we see Broha get the start for Beto. Interesting to not see any Yusuf Chermiti today. Hope he's okay. Of course, just exciting to only see one goalkeeper on the bench. And then, of course, just given the comments from Moyes and the presser, thought that Dwight McNeil potentially would be considered for a start, but we still see Jack at right wing. In terms of City, another strikerless lineup. We see Jasko Gvardiol playing left center back, and of course, pretty threatening bench as usual, just given the amount of talent they have with Jack Grealish, Jeremy Doku, and Phil Foden on the bench. Uh, Interestingly enough, I think I want to get the community involved. So, Peter, I have your request. I'll bring you up. Peter, can you hear me? You can come off mute.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Yeah. I mean, I could go through the timeline, but I think it would be fun to get your thoughts on the match and just overall, what are your thoughts of the game, and then just kind of some of the events that happened throughout.
Well, I'll jump in, I guess. I guess it's a Roger Bennett observation. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Michael Keane in the back four. That was very sad looking. He tried to give away 2 or 3 goals before he finally gave one up. Hopefully Tarkowski's okay. You see how badly we need him in the back four once he's not there. And of course, we haven't seen him not there in 3+ seasons now. It was a decent performance. We had chances early on, didn't put him away. That sounds familiar. And Man City's a very strong squad, even without their biggest guns on the pitch. Very tactical, very talented. And our back four broke down a little bit. And I hate to say we got what we deserved, but we didn't take our chances. So tough to get a 0-0 draw against Man City.
Yeah, it's funny because the game seemed to turn really when Michael Keane came in. I know there's been some commentary in if Moyes should have just either put, let's just say, Patterson kind of at a left back like he's done, or even Seamus or Ashley Young. But it's kind of one of those situations that it happened so quickly that I don't blame him for putting Keno in there. I think I'd give him more blame if we go to Chelsea, right, and he's starting instead of Jake at center back, just because it's a bang decision. You don't really have time to do it. But of course, in typical Keno faction, he's just rusty, right, and he just looked very, very slow, kind of throughout, and of course, just was really taken from their front line. Curious, what were your thoughts on Mikalenko today? Because I think he's one that, in my opinion, I think he's man of the match. I would imagine he's most people's. I thought he had one of his best games today, but curious your thoughts on Miko.
Yeah, he was very strong today. He's a funny player. Just when you think, geez, he's not up to the level, he puts together a couple performances. You say, wow, this guy's great. And then it drops off again somehow. I thought I thought the whole team was very good. Up until Tarkowski got hurt, we had the better of it. We should have been up 1 or 2-0. I think we did have to make one strong save there, but we were best up until the injury. After that, it got kind of ragged. Bro up top, I didn't care for. Beto looked much better. But how is it that Beto somehow is offsides everywhere in the field every single time the ball's played to him? It's amazing.
Yeah, and a few of them I thought were pretty borderline, but he seems to have gotten the DCL effect of being offsides a lot more than he should. But yeah, it's just it's funny, right? Because also too, it's Broha was perfectly onside. He just didn't seem to have any sort of fight for the ball, or just he's just not a target striker. I think that's what it really comes down to. He does decent when he plays on the wing. But yeah, it's just no, it's a fair point. Ryan, What are your thoughts on the match? And Samuel, I see you request. I'll get you up in a bit. Just want to make sure that Peter gets his thoughts out. Peter, stay up here, and then Samuel, I'll get you up in a second. I see your request.
Hey, can you hear me all right, Sean?
Yeah, yep, loud and clear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much we went into it already. I mean, Sean, you saw some of the numbers I threw in here, right? Have we gone over those yet?
No, if you want to go through them, you can, or if you want me to, if they're not in front of you, I can bring them up.
No, we'll just go real quick. I mean,
Okay.
I think I'm sure people are going to say some of the same stuff, but ultimately, a little bit Tark going out. I mean, Keane made some mistakes, but fundamentally, the City subs made a huge difference too. I mean, from about the 79th minute in, I mean, it was 4-1 in shots. They were 88% pass success. We couldn't even get the ball back. 78% possession. We were dispossessed twice. They were not dispossessed at all yet in the second half before the subs by City. I mean, the numbers are obvious, man. I mean, Everton had the only corner, 7 tackles. They didn't have a single tackle. They were dispossessed 5 times, and the shots were 6-5. And I think that's the difference. I mean, part of it's quality. And then I think if you dissect the goals, I mean, you just have some really bad individual plays. You have a cross that gets off way too easy because Mikalenko doesn't have the cover he thinks he probably needs. They're stacking 2 players because Tim just got in the game. And then Keane doesn't step forward to a center forward. He has to have that player. I mean, JB steps forward. It's very obvious. You can't let that person get goal side or in front of you. Just get on him. And it doesn't happen at all. It's terrible play. And then I think you look at the second goal, and it's a fantastic finish by Kovacic, but fundamentally can't have 2 midfielders staring at a guy taking a shot from the 18. I mean, and you had Tim doing that, just staring, and it's a great finish. And I'm not mean to pick on Tim. It was a functional thing, but that's what happens. Ghana goes out, Tark goes out. It's a massive drop off in terms of quality, and it is what it is. So it's a shame too, because for about 80 minutes, we played him pretty even. And again, you look at their lineup, there's opportunities. I mean, obviously they have a game coming on in a couple days. That's a massive match for them. And as a result, they're not going to play their quality. But look at what happened when Doku came on the pitch. It gave them an orientation. And, I mean, Jake did fine against him, but fundamentally he's a good player. I mean, Dwight had to come back. He was chasing shadows, and they just dominated the game after that point. But look, in the future, you're not going to have a guy like Michael Keane on your bench. I mean, the people you should be mad about is not mad at Michael Keane. You should be mad at the people that put us in the situation where we had to keep someone like that on the roster. And I think everyone said this. I'm looking forward to the summer, man. Looking forward to the summer.
Yeah, no, I think all your points are great. Interestingly enough, too, I was just looking at some of the stats. Njai really wasn't involved. I'm looking passes, 20 passes. You're looking at kind of some of the other players. Thought Mikalenko, Ryan, you weren't on while this, I mean, played one of his best games
He was great.
of the season. Yeah. In terms of like just long balls, right? He's 5 for 8 on long balls, JB 5 for 7, Garner 4 for 5. So we were getting some of these passes. I felt like, kind of not specifically in the final third, but before that, I thought our build-up play was good. And even the first 10 or 15 minutes, right, when they were pressuring us pretty bad, or pretty hard, I thought we actually did a pretty decent job with the squad that we had out there dealing with some of that pressure in terms of some of the 1-2 touch play.
And the tactics weren't bad, Sean. I mean,
No.
you could tell, look, Brozier wasn't good, but the attempt to use him on the right side to kind of flood that side, attack the way we did, show some patience. There was space in the midfield to find either one of our DMs in the buildup. And when they collapsed in the middle, it gave us room on the wings to kind of, chip one over. So, I mean, I thought it was fine, I mean, back and forth, really, for the most part. Yes, our big chances were on set pieces, but it's not like we have massive quality up top. And Brozier just didn't play very well, frankly.
Yeah, and I don't blame Moyes for playing him. I mean, at this point, it's unfortunately you're kind of in two minds, right? You're playing to get as many points as you can the rest of the season, but at the same time, someone like him has to see the players that are kind of under consideration for next year, and he's one of them, right? But you saw kind of the change in mindset from the defenders when they saw Beto come on versus Broha. It was instant, kind of just a proper center forward that essentially is giving them fits and not just being bullied off the ball, after just kind of one touch. So yeah, kind of quick thoughts. What are your thoughts on Jack today? Both Peter and Ryan.
I thought he was very good today. His crosses weren't great, but he carried a lot of the play up top. A lot of play was down his side. He was threatening. He didn't quite finish it off, but I thought he was very good today.
Playing with confidence, you could tell he's trying to play faster. I mean, his first touch is unbelievable, man. I mean, Still it is. And look, he doesn't have the pace or necessarily the trickery to beat guys clean, but he was at least getting some service off. And if anything, was probably a little bit let down from the guys around him. But yeah, I thought it was a decent performance. I think we'd like to see him back on the left. I'm not saying we sign him permanently, but yeah, I thought he was all right.
Fair points. And anybody in the space, feel free to request to speak. I'd love to hear from you. So yeah, just send a request and you come on. Let's look. Of course,
Yeah, this is an awesome crowd we have on here. Some of the guys here, there's some serious knowledge out here. So I would love to hear the takes from some others out there. Like, kind of ridiculous, actually. Some of the guys are on. I'm thrilled to see the names out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Moyes makes the triple sub. Not too much from Charlie today. I thought, of course, limited time, just couldn't really get, even some of his passes just kind of wide open mark. It's hard to really read into the two goals outside of just, of course, my hope is that with Tark, I hope it's not a season-ending injury. It kind of looked like his hamstring, and of course, someone as an Iron Man as he is, if he's gone down, it had to be something big. So,
well, Sean, I'm curious what people think about. Was that a bad move to bring Keane in there too? Were we not ready to drop Jake down at right center back? And what about going forward? Am I fair to say most would agree that it'd be interesting to see Jake paired with JB going forward? And if you do that, who plays right back? I want to hear some people's ideas on that for sure.
Yeah, everyone, please, request, and of course you'll be up. Peter, I'll start with you just because you're up here. Kind of thoughts going forward in regards to how you would set up the back four if Tark is basically kind of not in the picture.
Yeah, I hope the Tark injury is just a hyperextension. He did walk off and was putting weight on it. That I thought was a good sign. And if you ever hyperextended your knee, it can hurt like a son of a bitch. You can think you've really gotten hurt, and you might not be so hurt in a couple of days. So we'll pray for that. I would move O'Brien into the right center back, and then take your pick at right back. I thought you should put Coleman on. These games don't mean tons to us. Last couple of games at Goodison, Seamus Coleman runs out to right back. That place ignites. I hope we're not going to have to do the same thing with that we're on the third or fourth manager with Michael Keane, where they have to learn he's too slow-footed and positionally he's not good enough to play at this level. I worry about that. That's how I would set it up.
I think Moyes knows he wants more pace a little bit on the back so guys can get up the pitch and play a little higher. I think we're pretty safe on that one. At least that's my thoughts, Peter. I'm curious again to hear some others.
All right, we just got two more speakers. Slud, we'll start with you, and then Patrick Ridge will go with you, and kind of the setup you'd have rest of the season. And then, of course, given that we have a decent panel, we could talk about the summer.
Hey, how you doing, guys? Can you hear me all right?
Perfect.
It's not in the pub right next to you, buddy, but
Long-time listener, first-time caller, right? Kind of what you were saying before about Broha and Moyes wanting to have a look at him. You would think the same thing applies at the back, right? We know what we've got with Keane, and I don't think any of us are, except maybe Toffee Liz, are that impressed, right? So why not try? Why not try? Is it going to be that much worse with young Coleman or Patterson at right back instead of O'Brien?
No, I think that's fair. I'll give my thoughts real quick, and then Patrick Ridge, your move. But I think just for today, I think it's very easy for us to just simply say, "Oh, he should have done this or he should have done that." He really only had a minute or two to kind of decide, and I think also too with just how familiar Jake has kind of gotten at the right back position, just kind of changing his position middle of the match is probably something he didn't want to do, right? I would give him a lot more blame going forward if we see against Chelsea that he's playing right back and Keno's playing center back. But in terms of kind of who plays right back, there's pros and cons with all of them, right? If I had to probably put a person, I'd probably put Pato, just simply because I just want him to get some minutes at this point. Whether that helps his value or hurts his value for a loan or just, we'll see. But yeah, kind of my initial thought there. All right. Patrick Ridge, please chime in.
Hi lads, I'm good to speak again. And James, you've kind of stolen my thunder there. I think that's exactly what I was going to say. I think watching the game today, when Tarkowski went down, it was immediately he's just gonna turn to the 32-year-old, vastly experienced Premier League centre back on the bench. In theory, that's great, But in practice, it's Michael Keane coming on, and unfortunately, as fans, we're all used to the Michael Keane experience by now, aren't we? But
what does Patrick Ridge do there?
Well, Patrick Ridge would have probably, in an ideal world, played Jake O'Brien there. But I do understand why he did just chuck Keane on. I think it's that quick turnaround. O'Brien was playing fine at right back and has been playing so well at right back. And you've got to remember, they'll be training in that shape all the time. Now, we'd like to think that maybe they're mixing things up a little bit, but just kind of going with that defensive shape probably all the time, working on it, because Tarkowski, I think I posted a stat, but that was his 111th consecutive Premier League start. He's 3 off the all-time record for an outfielder, which he now obviously looks like he's not going to hit, but you've just got, you're training in that shape. O'Brien's a young player, been doing well there. So maybe you don't change that round mid-afternoon against Man City. But as everyone said, I think moving forward, can't be Michael Keane in the team. He's proved why. He just made the entire defence nervous. It reminded me so much of the start of the season. And everything comes. I'm not putting it all on him. There were some mistakes. I think the other subs weren't great. The team looked a bit tired once Garner went off as well. But I think maybe a nail in the coffin there. And I just hope against Chelsea, whether it's Coleman or whether it's Patterson at right back, or maybe even Young, we do get to see O'Brien at centre half, and I think we will do. But it needs that week to be worked on before the next game.
How do you set up in that back line? I mean, maybe Miko kind of steps back a little bit more and you can push up the right back. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's why I think he'll go with Patterson. I think Moyes has shown, that he's not afraid to put a Young, like he hasn't really gone to Young when we'd have thought that, he might have done, even like today, to chuck Young on and put O'Brien at right back, which maybe in hindsight would have been the better thing to do. I think he will go with Patterson. I think he will give him a run. I'd like to think he will in the home games at least. And in that case, I think you say to him, you're the one who's going forward. Mikolenko, just sit back a little bit and, let's try and keep that shape that way. I suppose it depends if he wants to be a bit more conservative against Chelsea, but I don't really see the need to be. I think we can get at them, and I don't see a reason to be scared of any team now. There's nothing hanging on it other than a couple of £1 million either way to get up the table. So I'd like to think that's what he'd do, and that's what I'd do anyway. I'd give Patterson this run of games now, and then you can make a call on him in the summer.
If you open up the wide space for Patterson, who jumps into that right half space as forward? I mean, do you come back with McNeil and give him a shot to play inside? I mean, I don't trust that he can really play in there with a wide player. Maybe you'd rather have someone deeper so he has more freedom. But I'm kind of curious. I want to see it. You know what I mean?
I think that's the thing. I think we've all, if McNeil is going to be in the team next year, where is he going to play? Like, again, we need a squad. I'm not saying get rid of the guy, but he isn't a natural fit maybe as a Moyes winger who he wants a bit more. I think we will be going for more pace and dynamism. And if he's going to get in the team regularly, I do think it might have to be on the right. And as you probably know, I've never rated him on the right, but
I know we've talked about this.
Yeah, and I want to now give him a go there because I think, well, Njai's got that left side, got the number 10 nailed down. I think between him and we'll see what happens with Decore, we'll see what happens with Alcaraz. So for me, you maybe do start to look at it now again. Harrison, I think, is playing well. So maybe keep on going, see if he can pick up this form. But if Patterson is going to come in, again, that might be something you look at against Ipswich at home or Southampton at home. See what it can be like with a full-back flying, really pushing on and opening up that space for McNeil then to drop in a little bit. And Alcaraz now, we're getting into the point where I do think it's sensible not to start him in every game and then have to spend 15 million euros on him. I think that's good value, but why do it unless you absolutely have to? So I think from what I was told anyway, it's going to be 9 starts that he needs to do. He's on 4 Premier League starts. So, I don't think he's going to start every game Alcaraz is in between now and then, but maybe Ipswich at home, Southampton at home, you can start to then really have a look at what that new attacking line looks like.
Yeah, I'd still be surprised if we don't exercise the option. I mean, 50 million euros is nothing for a player like that at his age. So, but yeah, why have the pressure or why be forced to do it and then him getting injured on the last game? I mean,
well, exactly.
No real reason.
It's Everton, that isn't it? And you just don't want to count your chickens before they've hatched. So yeah, I really like Alcaraz, but again, my argument would be and I can see the logic in not doing it unless we absolutely 100% have to start him in every game.
One player that I thought played really well today was Decore, and I thought after kind of, I would say his performance, you could tell Father Time was catching up with him. I would say, before the Forest game and probably before a few of those other games. But I don't know, curious kind of what the panel's thoughts are on Decore. Of course, it's pretty evident that from his celebration, I know, there was the charity and the kids that he was kind of doing it for last week against Forest. But kind of curious, it seems like he just always finds a way to get a bit of a second win in spots you wouldn't expect him to get.
I mean, for me, if he's comfortable coming off the bench a little bit and taking a pay cut, it'd be nice to have, if you're up on a match, you want to drop him in the 10 to defend a little bit more, behind the ball. He's valuable. I think he can also play deeper as well. So, I mean, maybe he's not a starter. I mean, I think Everton need very much assuming they can somehow convince Ghana to sign. I mean, they need someone next to Ghana that can really control a match a little bit better. James Garner's been good, but, you'd like to see an upgrade there. But I just don't know if it's going to happen, man. I mean, you would think someone's going to offer him money, whether it's Saudi or someplace else. But, it's nice to see him play pretty well the last two matches, I think.
Yeah, I reckon that Decore, if he's willing to take that, step back out of the starting lineup and come in, he can be really a player who makes a difference, right? He's proven that he's a man in big moments over the last couple of seasons, but I'm not sure he's really a PL starter at this point in his career.
You think he sees himself that way, though? I mean, he's a very confident guy.
Yeah, there's a 0% chance he'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I'd agree with Slud. I mean, it's just it. I mean, of course, he's not getting demoted to the U21s under Frank Lampard, but like, I just don't see him being okay with kind of a 30-minute or kind of a cup starter kind of place on this team. It's just he seems like a guy that wants to play as much football as his body can possibly allow him to.
Well, like I mentioned on the Discord, if we sub Tim in, we're going to give up 2 goals. And, hate to pick on the guy, but I don't think you can go in and count on him playing in that deeper role. He's just pretty limited. He's got some physical talents, but I think we got to send him somewhere to play day to day. We just have so many holes. I mean, it's going to be hard. I mean, you can't really be expected to bring in 10
I don't
players.
know, Ryan. Leon Osman said that Tim would be a good replacement for Ghana. So
see, this is when you do this whole thing, and people are listening to it now, where you're just messing with me, and you do it all the time, and you think you're funny, Sean. You think you're funny.
All right, Peter.
Sorry. Harrison Armstrong. What about him next year? How many minutes is he going to be able to play? And I'm
curious who's been watching him. I know Patrick has been. To me, he's so much better on the ball than virtually everyone in that side right now in the championship level. But I just don't know whether he's what he is. You know what I mean? Is he a 6? Is he an 8? Is he a 10? He looks a little bit lost at times, but kind of that whole team does. I think he's better. I would absolutely take him over Tim, though. 100%.
100%.
I think you're getting to the point with Armstrong, and from what I've seen of him at Derby, where the decision in the summer is he's going to go to the States. You guys will probably get to see him over there, and I'm very jealous of that. I don't think I'll be able to make the trip, unfortunately, but it'll be brilliant in the summer. But I think the decision will be between Armstrong or Tim in the squad. And look, Tim is what it is. He was a convenient deal for PSR. I think he's got some good talents. I think we've seen a lot of his flaws, and we have done when he's played, let's be fair, defensively, but he's kind of struggling in possession at the minute as well. And I think in the summer, you make that decision and you think, right, we can maybe loan Tim out or look for a quick turnaround on a deal, and it doesn't have to be anything personal, but maybe you loan him to a championship club with a view to buy, or just to develop him and sell him next year, or he gets a year under his belt of senior football in a tough league, and you keep Armstrong in the squad. Or do you look at it and think, right, we really could do with Armstrong still getting that extra year out on loan? But I think the summer, those big games in the States, especially against Premier League opposition, I know the friendlies, but I think that's a really good time to test that theory. And then, because I do think we need at least one central midfielder anyway, and it's whether we need to go and get one or two, really, isn't it? Depending on what happens with Idrissa, which, yes, I hope ends well, but, I'm, again, not holding my breath.
Do you think, given, I think you make great points there, that you just would, if Derby stays in the championship, give him another year there at loan? Probably, given how much they love him over there, it seems like, and of course, John Eustace probably going to be the manager of the future there. You do you try to negotiate a loan fee as well as get him on a season-long loan and just continue to let him grow?
Yeah, I mean I think it seems sensible to do that if they do stay up, and I think there's might be Bobble who said it. There's like three or four clubs, including them, that have already inquired. Obviously, it depends what happens with their survival in the Championship, but again, I want Moyes and I want the coaching staff, and I think there'll be some new coaching staff in the summer as well, to have a look at him in the pre-season. And then if Derby have stayed up, it's almost an easy one there to say we want him in our squad, but the plan is we're going to assess him, and you have first refusal essentially, and then it's a bit of a seamless transition. On the flip side, is that too easy? Do you want the step up then to a Championship club that's maybe competing you never know, but in theory will be competing at the top of the table, and you want Armstrong to almost have to go and prove himself again? Like there's a lot of things to consider. Do you go back to where he's comfortable, or do you say, right, you've done it one place, go and do it another place, and that's what you've got to weigh up? Or, like I said, if he really impresses in pre-season, do they think at least until January we're going to keep him around? But in that case, then he needs to be getting some minutes, doesn't he? He needs to be the player that's coming off the bench as second sub. If you're making that midfield change at least, and establishing himself that way, because if not, there's no real boost to him keeping him around in our squad if he's not getting those minutes.
He's 100% on ball ready for sure to me. You know what I mean? Like getting on the ball, the quality on it. I think he can play in the midfield, whether it's off the bench or up front. I mean, I don't think there's a concern about that. It's just some of the other nuances of the position, and I think it would be helpful for him to have a fixed position. He's playing deeper a little bit now with the Championship, but that's more just to get on the ball. They're not the greatest side in the world. So I don't know, man. I mean, God, I just want to see him get a lot of minutes. You could see him if he played on a better side that controlled the game a lot. He would come across like an absolute all-star. But is that going to help him with positioning and whatnot, And I don't know. I'd like to see him give him a chance. I would rather have him and move Tim and give Tim another chance somewhere else. Just my personal opinion. I would trust him more than Tim.
No. I think that's totally fair. Curious on Jack. I'm going to put a scenario out there. I want everybody to answer it. So I think it's pretty evident. Leeds.
You're going to get killed for this.
I know. Leeds are probably going to get promoted at this point. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, and their fan base a few weeks ago, they'd probably consider themselves choke artists. But I think at this point, it looks pretty evident. Would everyone here take him if he was a free transfer? They were trying to get off his wages. Curious on everybody's thoughts there.
I take him on a free transfer. I mean, simply because of the dynamics of the number of expiring contracts that we have. Same with Decore. If it's a club-friendly deal, I keep him.
Yep.
You can't sign a whole team. It's just not possible from a financial standpoint. I don't see how we do that. I would keep him. These are incremental steps. We want to move forward. But I would keep him on the team if it was club friendly. Yes.
I don't think it'd be a free though. I mean, even Angus Kinnear can't transfer him to himself.
I don't know. I mean, if Angus could be on, a podcast every year, just talking about how bad Tyler Adams and Luis Sinisterra's agents are, anything is possible. So, Slud, curious your thoughts.
I mean, if it's a free, he's been pretty good the last couple of weeks. I mean, it's just, I think we can do better. And I think we've all seen that the wide areas is where we need to probably spend some money as well, especially if we can keep some of those central midfielders and wait till next year on those or something. But as a backup for cheap, it really makes a lot of sense. He's familiar with the Moyes now and he's been playing. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue on that. But if we're paying a fee, I don't know. Maybe there's better out there.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Like I said, I think the scenario is pretty tough now that they're going to be most likely promoted, and I don't think they'll have the pressure to sell. I'm curious if Jack even wants to go back to Leeds. Right? There's a lot of, much like this summer for us. Right? There's a lot of variables. I mean, even just paying $1 million for him to be Charlie's translator, part time would be valuable. But yeah, I think Peter, I agree with you. My fear is, and the reason I'm kind of pro Jack is we have so many players, right? To your point, Peter, like that are going to be out of contract this summer. There's going to be so many moving pieces, right? The more pieces that we can keep on this team, just for continuity purposes, right? Like, and I'm not saying Jack should be a full-time starter, right? But a spot starter versus, as well as just kind of somebody that can provide some quality with better players, of course, too, right? Because I think the unique thing about many of these players, and you see it with somebody even like Tark this year, right, is Tark paired next to Keane, not a great center back. Tark paired next to JB, a lot better, right? So it's just, I think as the talent grows around the team, you'll start to see some of these players, um, be a lot better.
I mean, I'm with
Is there-
Slug, though. I mean, I think you're going to invest money in a right wing of some sort or
Sure.
some sort of attacking position. I mean, assuming you're going to go get a stud there, you got to figure out what you're going to do with Dwight. I mean, the numbers don't look good for Jack. I mean, Jack can play all three spaces up front, but if you go after Charlie, you bring him in, you bring in a stud at right wing, then what do? I mean, I think there's enough question marks about center forward, too. I mean, I don't know what you do there. I mean, today, did we see enough of Broja today to say no thanks?
Yes.
Me personally, yes.
Yeah.
He frankly seemed a little, I don't want to overstate it. He seemed a bit disinterested almost.
Yeah, I hope
He didn't
Albanian
seem
Twitter is
really-
not a secret anonymous
Well,
listener, but yeah.
No, but look, I mean, I think some of us watched him at Southampton and saw a powerful, pacey guy that could run with the ball and score. And just, he lost a couple battles today that you kind of shake your head at and think, come on, man. Like, seriously. I just, Beto came in immediately and just won some battles, at least at a minimum. You know what I mean? I don't, you see a guy that size with that sort of strength and pace, and maybe he's a little bit rusty, but he started last week. I mean, I think it's pretty disappointing, honestly, that performance of him. I think, if anything, I think maybe a little bit better quality today at center forward. We might score at least before those subs came on.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. I think the most disheartening thing with him is just how easy he was bullied in the middle, right? And it's not a good sign for a striker that, like, I feel like he's, his best kind of moments have been on the wings, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's
not
not,
against that back line, too. Like, I understand
yeah.
against some back lines. Like, this isn't Saliba and Gabriel out there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like the funny thing is I feel like he did better against the better back line last week against Milinkovic and Murillo, right? So it's just like it's not it's one of those things where, yeah, I just feel like he's not proving himself. I understand 2 starts is not the most amount of experience, right? But like also too, he has come in for a few different cameos, and like, if I want to compare, I was much more impressed from what I've seen with Trimiti in one appearance, right? Than I have Broha. And how much money do we have to pay for Trimiti, right? Nothing. So
Do we know if Trimiti, anybody know why he was not there on the bench?
I'm not. I think he was at the ground, so I'm not sure if it was just not selected or if he'd picked. I don't know. There was a slight concern, and I think it's. I know there's been a bit of furore over Breuer. Like, I don't think he'll be staying, but it's worth them having a look and using this time. He can't play against Chelsea, obviously, so I can get why he started. I would have started better today because I think you want that chaos up against that City defence. I think it would have really helped. But then again, you had him to bring on, and that worked well last week. But yeah, I don't know. I would have liked to see Trimiti on the bench, so I don't know if it was a case of an injury or Moyes being ultra conservative with 3 right backs on the bench that then didn't bring any of them on when we might have needed one, which would have been funny. But it would be good to get Trimiti a run now, wouldn't it? And like I said, I think he'll be needed next week, so hopefully he's fit, because it seems like an ideal chance to have Beto start and Trimiti come off the bench at Chelsea.
Patrick, that's a fantastic point. I didn't even think of that in terms of Broha not being able to play next week. So thank you for mentioning that, because that makes a lot more sense.
Look, they've got to have taken a look at him at the end of the day, haven't they? And I think
100%.
We all probably. I was surprised last week, because I thought they was just going to cut it. Do you know what I mean? I thought they were kind of done with the idea, but again, it makes sense. Like, you've got him, you might as well assess. And Everton might genuinely have to get 2 or 3, if not centre forwards, players who can play centre forward in the summer, depending on who leaves. Like, as well as Beto's done, I still think that if 15 million came in for him, they might genuinely cash in. And Trimiti needs a loan. Breuer, we don't know. So if there's a chance that we can think, if he impresses in this last few weeks, there might be a deal there to do with Chelsea to get him back on loan. And we've got a body, and Calvert-Lewin probably going as well. So there's a lot of work to do. So I understand them having a look, but yeah, he was poor today. He really was.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I have zero issue with him playing, Moyes playing him, because, like you said, I think Moyes is in kind of a unique position where he's got to get, of course, his opinions on these players, but of course these players need playing time, right? I think just the disappointment comes from what he actually did on the pitch. All right, so since you mentioned it, I think this is a fantastic opportunity and time to mention DCL. What is everyone's thoughts on kind of, because it seems like of course the multiple of just anonymous sources that seem to have no credibility have mentioned that the contract is still on the table, uh, but also too that it's still 100,000 per week or somewhere around that figure. Do you want DCL back? Do you think he's going to sign the contract? Just curious on everybody's thoughts.
I think we can't count on it, right? I mean, I'm personally love DCL, have great memories of all these goals over the years, but I just can't see, we can't count on him to say anything like to stay or to sign a contract or anything. So we have to sort of move on as an organization. And if he does end up sticking around at this point, yeah, there's no guarantee he's the starter, right? So it's just, we have to move on as an organization until he commits to us or decides to go.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings that he hasn't signed a contract that's in front of him for all this time. If he wants to go, the contract's expiring, let him go. I have great memories of him too, like all of us do over the years, but he's not a young player anymore, and he has shown himself not to really be good enough in many cases. And we've rooted for him for so long and so hard. We love him, but I think we passed him by. It's time to let him go.
Well, let's take sentimentality out of it for a second. I think the problem is, so say you commit to him those sort of money. I mean, you're basically saying you're a starter. Not saying for sure that's the case, but I would assume he wouldn't sign otherwise. And I agree this is probably his best opportunity to start. But what do you do with a guy like that? I mean, you can't feel that confident he's going to stay healthy. I mean, most of the issues are muscular. They've been a little inconsistent. Unless they feel like, and look, before you sell a player, you're going to know more about that player than another team buying them almost in every circumstance. That's why you don't want to screw up a sale. Like that's not good on you. But say you commit that sort of money to him, then what? Do you stick around with Beto? Beto's not going to want to stick around for that. He already had to sit there and play second fiddle to him, and I'm sure he looks at things and said, I was better than that guy. I came in and scored. He hasn't scored at all. So you got to figure then he goes, and then what? I mean, you can't rely on Trimidi if you've got a guy that you think's injury prone as a center forward. You look for a loan for someone that's reliable. I don't know, man. I mean, I still will be surprised if he signs with us. I don't think he'll get a better deal in terms of opportunity to play, and I'm not so sure he's going to get the money. But look, he fired his agent for a reason, though. I think he's blown it here. I really think he has. It's been over a year since he's had that on the table. He's left a couple $1 million on the table, period. He'll probably never make that up in terms of whatever massive deal he thinks he's getting as a free. I don't think you can commit that sort of money to a guy that's injury prone in our situation. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, Ryan. Look, I think DCL gets some unfair criticism from a lot of quarters and some fair from others, some other quarters as well. And but I do think we'll miss him. But at the same time, he's not irreplaceable. I think all parties really. It's not that without anybody being to blame, without anybody doing anything wrong. Everybody had their own interests last year. The club had their own interests. The club had its own reasons for not being able to offer Dom a contract sooner as well. And they were probably reasons outside of Kevin Farewell's control, outside of the manager's control at the time. I'm sure they would have wanted to do it earlier, but they just couldn't. I think he wants to change, and that's fine. But again, it just feels like such a missed opportunity now. Last summer with that swap from Inter that didn't go through, but he didn't want to go to Newcastle, so he asked for big money. I still don't think he wants to stay in England. I think he'd like to move abroad. But, I suppose it depends now, doesn't it? He's going to be in a position where he probably doesn't have the pick of clubs that he thought he would do. And it's a shame. It's a shame for him. It's a shame for Everton, more importantly. But yeah, again, I just think it was one of them that we in hindsight we really needed to get out of the door last summer. But I can understand at the time why they asked for big money, because he was our starting centre forward, and we asked for 25-30 million for the guy. But we kind of had to, because it's like, well, who do you go out and get at that point, when we thought this time last summer, Dyche's football, we really need that type of player. Moyes has shown that it works without, but it would have been interesting to see what Moyes would have done with Dom as well, and how Dom would have reacted to that. So I don't think you can be offering him the contract that we did, which was reportedly something like 130 grand a week. It'd have been second highest earner after Pickford. I think it has to be, if we are going to offer him another deal, reduce terms now, and he takes it or leave it. And if he leaves it, we shake his hands and move on and at the end of the day, it would have been nice to get the PSR win. It'd be nice to get that money, but 1.5 million for a player who's been here nearly a decade, came in as an academy punt, and he leaves as our third highest Premier League goal scorer. Like, to me, you shake hands, move on, and say well done all round, really.
I mean, Patrick, I think the best point that you make there in that is that you were locked into a style of player with Dyche. I mean, that was probably the only position you looked at for sure that he needed a certain type of profile. And I've had lots of arguments about the Beto acquisition because it wasn't necessarily cheap, but I think in many ways their hands were tied. You know, they had to pick a player that could play the way Dyche wanted a center forward to play to a certain extent, but they also didn't want to pick a player that was locked into that could not play in another scheme. And look, the payment terms on Beto were really good, and they had no cash really at the time. So I get it, but you're kind of in limbo a little bit now. I personally, depending on how Moyes feels about it, I think you got to let DCL walk. I don't think he's signed anyway, and I think maybe you roll the dice and spend the money in other areas and go with Beto and maybe even Trimidi behind him. I mean, I know Beto's not the greatest. I know the team, the scouting group feels like he's a really good backup center forward in the Premier League. I don't think they view him as some sort of locked-in starter or anything like that, and I think that's reasonable. But you can't replace everyone this summer, and it just seems like the market for center forwards this summer might be really, really difficult too.
Yeah, I think it's well said. And, I think, Patrick makes great points as well as Peter. The thing that's interesting, right, is that I think from an objective view, right, like I don't blame DCL at all for not signing the deal while Dyche was here. And, while we were playing our turgid type of football, right? But there was a window of time, right, where I'm sure that deal was open. Understanding the ownership situation was very murky. But when you have a situation where David Moyes is coming in, he's getting his starts, right? He started basically 2 games before the injury. I just think there was a moment in time, right, where he probably could have made that decision. And to your point, Ryan, I mean, he fired his agents for a reason. It's not because they were doing a good job. It's because I think, if you asked him privately, he mismanaged the situation. Because
I think he was badly advised. I think he flat out was.
I agree.
Look, I mean, my thought is this too. Fine, say he comes in, bangs him in, does well, and says, look, I still want to move. Well, in this group, we're not going to say you can't go anywhere. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Again, though, in his defense, ownership was a little bit in limbo. Now you can look at, even David Moyes can't just dictate how things are. And Dyche could, to some extent. So maybe there's uncertainty there too, but yeah, I just feel like he was badly advised. Sign the deal. You could still move. I don't know. That's just my thought.
But also too, right? If he could have signed a pre-contract, right? If the demand was there. So it makes me wonder that I think, when he kind of looked at it, the advice wasn't great, and I think the demand wasn't as. And don't get me wrong, like I'm sure there are teams that want him. He's obviously got a very unique skill set. I don't think anybody would argue that. But at this point, to your like just the injury history, as well as just I think the ability to maybe look at other positions for us, I think could put us at a place where the wages, right, for a team that we're not Chelsea, we're not, where we could just throw those wages out, right, and have no repercussion. I think would probably not be the right move at this point.
And obviously there was Newcastle interest, but realistically, you look at the top half of the table, is there a club in there he would start for or even get a lot of minutes for? I don't see it.
No, I do think in a way, I think he was almost unfair. I think he has been a bit unfairly pigeonholed ever since Rafa, or Benitez, I shouldn't call him Rafa, came in as this target man, lump them up striker. And his best form wasn't that. I think he showed in very brief flashes in the 2 games under Moyes when it was slightly different. It's like, yeah, he is more than this. Now he'll always be erratic in his finishing, and always compare him to Raheem Sterling in the sense of nothing like similar players. But Raheem Sterling might need 16 chances to score 2 goals, but he'd get those 16 chances in a game. Dom always needed a lot of chances to score, but if you put him in those good positions, he will get the goals. But I think, to your point, I don't think there is now a team that would think Dominic Calvert-Lewin's the fit for us because of what I've just said. In the last 4 years, he has almost been used as a bit of a battering ram. And I think he wanted Italy. I think France. I think there was some teams interested, but they're not going to pay those wages. But again, if he just wants a change, then maybe it's not about the money. And I do almost think that the agency were really, Wasserman, wasn't it, were trying the hand And I do think they messed it up, and that shows. Dom got rid of them. But I think at the same time, he probably was like, well, if I'm going to move to another Premier League club, I want the big bucks. But we'll see. It might be that Newcastle are the option. Eddie Howe loves him. Like, I do know that. They really rate him, and they want Callum Wilson gone. So, it might be that they view it, Dom, as on free transfers back up to Isak if they keep him, as a really smart deal.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. One thing, we have 25 minutes left. I want to transition to another topic. So going into the summer, right? Of course, there's just a plethora of mystery items, but curious on if you could have it your way, what kind of are your top 3 needs for the team? And you can make any assumptions, right? Let's just say if you expect Ghana to stay, feel free to say that and stuff like that. But kind of your top 3 needs or items or even players, if you have kind of some in mind, that you kind of want to address going into the summer.
I assume Ghana stays. I pray Ghana stays. I think our biggest need is someone who can finish the ball and put it in the back of the net. You create chances, don't finish them over and over again. It'd be nice to see if Tchouaméni does get some time. Moyes was quoted this week speaking positively of Tchouaméni and indicating he was going to get playing time, which is why it was surprising he wasn't there today. But maybe you're correct that it's just simply a rotation and he'll be there next week because Brian is not available. But if we could find, maybe Charlie is the playmaker. We haven't seen enough of him to see, but a 10 and a 9. We've had this problem for a while, right?
Yeah, sorry, Sean. I would echo that. I think a right winger with genuine. Well, it doesn't have to be a strictly right winger, but we haven't been able to sign one for the last, what is it, right now, 8 years now? But a right winger with genuine electric pace and dynamism. And to be fair, I've not watched much of him in the last few months, but Bakayoko at PSV, that kind of profile of player I really like around about that age. Now, I'm not saying we could get him, but I think there's going to be money there. If there's one position that you can spend big money on, to me, you go and get someone of that caliber in that position, in that role. And then I do think we need a striker, and it's how about then it's those moving parts of, can you afford both of those, or can you go and get 2 that can do a similar kind of job and grow into those players? I did like the Neymar links, and as much as I wish the club had pulled the trigger, I do understand at the time the reluctance to do so. From Moyes' perspective, it was then Neymar obviously went on an amazing scoring run, and now unfortunately has picked up a bad injury. But I think you've got to be looking at that profile, and then I do think a high caliber of striker as well. Whether we can do it all in one summer, remains to be seen. And I do think we need, depending on the players that leave, we're going to need 6 to 7 at least to boost out the squad, aren't we? As in 6 to 7 signings in total, and that might sound like a lot, but I think we made 8 signings last summer, so it quickly piles up. And I think the key positions for me would be those 2, and then as well as Mikalenko's done, I think you've still got to look at left back. And I think you look at centre back then and see what happens with Branthwaite, and we've got O'Brien, but do you then need that 4th choice, or is there a younger player you can go and get, or like a stopgap loan to pad the squad out? So yeah, a lot of moving parts, but for me, right wing and centre forward are the big ones.
All right, Ryan, before you go, we need to, just because we talked about Nuama, Jack, thank you for coming up. Would love to get your opinions on the question.
Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's having a nice day. Yeah, unfortunately, Ernest Nuama will not be joining Everton next season because his knees don't work. So that'll be an impediment. But I think I'm largely in agreement when it comes to looking at the summer. I think also you have to think about the African Cup nations in December. You're going to be without NGI. You're going to be without Idrissa Gueye if Idrissa Gueye is staying. So we saw what the midfield was today when Idrissa Gueye came out. So losing him for the most important month of the season is probably going to be terrible.
Yeah. I think the AFCON point you make is really good. So
yeah. So I think you have to look at a dynamic attacker on either wing. I know we haven't signed a right winger in 7 years who's capable. So I think that's going to be your first choice. And then you have to start looking to the future in midfield. You have to be able to come up with something for after Idrissa Gueye. Whether how soon after Idrissa Gueye comes, no one knows. But I think those are definitely the 2 biggest needs. And everything else is just going to be based on what happens to everywhere else, like center back if Branthwaite leaves or something like that.
I think you need a right back. I know we have a lot of them, but fundamentally you need someone that can be a little bit better than what we have there, because I don't think we have an answer. And I think you need, to Patrick's point, I think you need a younger attacking option at left back, at least. Someone who can get up and down. So if you need to switch things around and attack more from that side, and Nikolenko, I don't know if you can ask him to necessarily do that. I think you need a young option there, at least someone to get in the mix. But to me, almost the midfield is as important as anything. It'd be lovely to get a center forward. I just think this market's going to be terrible. I mean, that's just my opinion. So, I would rather run with Beto and Shermiti and take the risk there, provided I can improve other areas. I mean, that's just me. I think the other thing is, too, Njai can play center forward. I know some people don't necessarily think he can, but I think he can. But man, we'd love to have the equivalent of Njai on the right side, maybe someone that can kind of score a little bit more, tucking it in rather than just pure dribble. And there are a lot of guys. I mean, Bakayoko is definitely an option, I would think. He seems like he's taken a little bit of a step back this year. I don't know why. He just looked a little bit more tentative when I saw him play. But that team is outrageous. I mean, they just fire the ball all over the place. So it's kind of hard to judge someone in that style of play when it's just so back and forth, up and down, so attacking in nature. I mean, it's fun to watch, but when you've got legs all around you too, you're not necessarily a focal point, even if you're talented. Nuama was a no-brainer to me at 20 million euros. I think that was the number. I just think that his market value was perfect then, and there aren't that many guys out there that are going to beat that. But I also don't think he was going to walk in the team. I mean, Moyes, I think his take was that let's see if we can do better. I don't know. I mean, I just got to have to do fullbacks. I mean, like Wesley at Flamengo would have been amazing, but I think the price they're asking for him is outrageous. So I don't think you can go with that. But I think he would be, if they could get him on any sort of affordable number, he would be in blue next year.
Oh, sorry. Halsey, feel free to come off mute and answer the question.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
So the question is going into the summer, what would if you were, let's just say, the director of football, what would your kind of top 2-3 needs be going to the summer to address, given the squad structure?
We just want to hear your voice and accent, my friend. It's like the voice of God. I love it.
Sorry, that's quite a compliment. It's the first time anyone ever said that. But yeah, I did put a message on the group. I think for me, we've been lacking pace kind of for the last 3 or 4 seasons, in my opinion. So pace, on the wings, I mean, is a non-negotiable, I think. Especially if you're going to say that we might not have money to spend on a striker, then we're going to have to get some goals from midfield, right? So, or your wingers. And definitely some pace on the wings. As the other speaker said, with AFCON coming up, look, Idrissa's not going to go on forever. So we've actually been needing an understudy for him for a very long time. So
I don't know, I'm hoping we can get some. I don't know. He seems like he could run for another 10 years. So
yeah, but he does need an understudy.
No, of course. No, I agree.
Yeah, and we always tend to. Well, every team tends to pick up injuries, and in some of the games, especially when you play the bigger teams, I think that's where the difference can often come in. They've got people who they can give them a little bit of extra in that midfield. Maybe like today we saw what happened. So definitely that. And players. I think we need to be a bit more clever in the loan market. Watch a fair bit of Italian football. I was hoping that we'd maybe try and get a guy like Benasser from Milan on loan. I see he's gone to Marseille and he's been doing quite well there. But I think we need to be a bit cleverer in the transfer market. Maybe give Carlo a ring and ask if we could take Arda Güler on loan next season if he's still there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a really good point you make, especially even with loans and obligations, right? Just given that that might give us a little bit more of an intent and power to get some of these players that we might not have been able to get because also too going into the summer after, we should have even more money to spend. Do you think Thomas Souček will solve all the issues when he signs for Everton?
I don't think so. You make an interesting point, because the question I was going to ask is, who's going to make the decisions? Will Thelwell be replaced? or are we going to see Moyes now almost in a hybrid role?
Yeah, I think that's, to your point, it's the biggest question. I mean, it's just because this whole committee situation, with Nick Hammond, with Angus, and who knows, kind of who else will come in, for just because, of course, Angus isn't even effective right until June 1st. So it's just there. I think there's a lot of mystery on that. And of course, was completely joking on Suchek. I really hope we don't use any of our kind of valuable funds to sign him. But I will answer the question too. I think I think we try to look right back on a free. If when you think of kind of to Ryan's kind of earlier point about strikers, kind of that market being very tough. If you can find a way to get Kene Tete or Kyle Walker Peters or someone in that kind of that's competent, right? At worst, to kind of fill in a hole like that, to put Jake at center back, and then I think everyone's kind of in unison to spend that money and go big on, I would say, center midfielder and probably kind of a winger of sorts. I look at what Andre's doing, for example, at Wolves, and they got him for, of course, there's a Jorge Mendes link there. So, and the money will always be a little bit tainted. But they got him for about 18, 19 million, I believe. And he's been an absolute stud for them and a kind of guy that I think Evertonians would love. I mean, we have fond memories of Allen, and that wasn't even in his heyday, right? So it's just, I think a player like that to really partner Ghana too would make his job a lot easier because, of course, James Garner, very hard worker. But he is definitely not, I think, the same quality of a guy like Andre or even, a very good center defensive mid. And then I think also too, just getting a right wing or even kind of someone in the half space that is dynamic, pacey, would really go a long way to kind of make the players around us better. Okay. If anybody else, by the way, wants to request to speak, no, feel free. I think another question I'll put out. What are you guys looking forward to? Kind of the last few games at Goodison. Any specific memories? Any specific things that come to mind? Just want to kind of go roundtable and get that.
Yeah, personally, I suppose I've not really let it hit me yet. Like I don't. Well, I won't be going again due to work. So my last Goodison experience, fittingly, was the 2-0 loss to Bournemouth in the FA Cup, and when we hit, I think Keane headed it over in the 92nd minute or something like that, and I had a 2-hour drive back, and all like, yeah, I'm not that bothered. That's fine. I've said goodbye to it my own way, so it's a bit of a cardinal sin. But yeah, I guess it's going to be emotional. I think it probably hasn't hit for a lot of people yet. I think the main thing is now we need to win those last two games. Like, we don't need to win them, but I think Moyes will be setting the stall out now. He didn't. We all wanted to go unbeaten, didn't we? In the last months, and we obviously haven't managed that now. So getting 2 wins against 2 sides we should be beating as well. Just seeing the Goodison, the Gladys Street Raw for one last time, or a couple last times as well. Thank God James Ward-Prowse doesn't still play for Southampton, or he'll still somehow find a way to score a free kick from there. But yeah, we just need it to go out on a high now, don't we? And enjoy some nice sunny days there, hopefully. And it'll probably bring back a load of memories for me when we finally have the last game there. I think my first game there would have been 2005. We qualified for the Champions League that day. Cale and David Weir scored against Newcastle. So yes, it's mad that's 20 years ago. But it'll probably be all of them. And yeah, my favourite memory probably is the Man City game when we beat them 2-0 and Osman and Yelovich scored. I think we had Pienaar sent off. That was a hell of a day as well. So yeah, I'm now reeling back all the memories for myself. So for people who have gone a lot more than me, I had a season ticket a few years ago, but it's going to be even more difficult for them. And then I guess guys who've come across such a long way, like you guys have, to then come to the ground as well. It makes those moments even more special for you. And then let's just embrace the fact that we're going through a once in a lifetime thing here. Like, a lot of fans of a lot of clubs will never see their team move ground. So that makes it more special as well.
Yeah. I mean, totally agree. And Patrick, it's funny you say that. I've been trying to. I'm actually going to the Everton Ipswich match, the next home game, and just describing it to Americans, or even just it's very difficult because the idea of moving from a stadium, right? Many teams have done it, but I think to have the emotional and historical attachment that Evertonians have, right, to Goodison Park. It's hard to describe, right? And I think it's almost impossible to describe unless you really are an Evertonian or just kind of understand the significance of it. Peter, your thoughts?
Well, I guess the most important thing here is getting some wins at the end of the season. Going out with wins at Goodison would be the right way to go. I almost feel like what happened in the home derby kind of put the exclamation point on the season for the home games. Like that was such a spectacular finish that everything else is kind of a denouement. That was the highlight as we got ourselves safe from relegation and the last second volley by Tarkowski. It almost feels like it's kind of already happened, even though obviously there's a couple of home games left and you're traveling to one, which is great. I'm of course looking forward to July 26th at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be awesome. We'll be in Atlanta, but definitely excited for you to go to MetLife. It's that'll be a fun time. Halsey, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to get over to Goodison in March. So I mean, all the history and you just had to take it in and absorb it. But I can only imagine for the regular the guys attending the match on a regular basis, what they must be feeling like. Yeah, but echoing the last sentiments there, would be great to get a couple of wins there. And I think it's important as well, just to lift the spirits, but also there's probably quite a few players playing for their contracts. So it would be nice to see them, or at least, just put the effort. Well, I'm not saying they don't put the effort, but just give it a bit of a go. And just make sure that the Goodison faithful at least can sign off with 2 wins. I mean, just personally from experiencing it, I just thought, wow, how awesome it must be to experience this every second week. Many supporters of football clubs around the world will never get a chance to watch their favorite team live. So, to those attending the last few games at Goodison, just enjoy every moment.
Well, I would say it's awesome now. The last few years, Halsey, I don't know if it's been as awesome, for those that have had to kind of endure some of the tough football we played. But no, your point is completely valid. Jack, we'll end with you. Kind of your thoughts.
Oh God, that's a lot of pressure. I mean, echoing what everyone else said, just try and enjoy the last few moments. I unfortunately only got to go once for a very forgettable loss to Tottenham on the final day of the season, like a decade ago. But it's still such a special place, so you kind of have to enjoy every bit of it while you can. And I really don't think Southampton have anything to play for anymore, since I think they're safe from beating Derby's record. So that should hopefully be a win on the last game of the season, and we can just have all the celebration and enjoyment after that.
I think it's well said, and I think it's a great place to end the space. Want to thank Peter, Jack, Patrick, Halsey, Slud, as well as Ryan for all your contributions today. We'll try to definitely do this more going forward, especially in the summer. A lot of fun stuff to talk about. And I think just more than anything, really exciting time to be a Toffee, right? And so just want to kind of echo that. And also, please, just if you can, join the Discord if you haven't. Really great community, as well as just truly appreciate everyone's support of the Blue Frontier. But with that, we're going to end the space. Just hope everyone has a great weekend, and look forward to playing Chelsea. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, everybody, very much for tuning in. We appreciate the support on the live spaces and for you listening after the fact. Just one last reminder that if you enjoy the show, please leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. Follow us on socials and join our Discord. All of those links can be found in the description. Leave it there. Until next time, up the Toffees.